Hey guys, and welcome to how to paint pale orc flesh on a Weirdnob Shaman for Ironjawz in Age of Sigmar. Okay, so we're going to be doing some pale orc flesh today, and I've got some brand new colors here that I wanted to try. So we've got like a pale sort of yellowy green, a bluey green, and then some mid-tone greens here as well, which I thought were really interesting. And we're going to build it up in my usual way, my sort of thematic way of doing the color scheme, the palette. And we're also going to do some underpainting here, and we'll probably do a bit of glazing as well, and just play around with some pale tones and doing something fun on this orc. Yeah, I really like this guy. I've always wanted to paint him, so I'm happy to be doing it now. And I think pale tones for sort of orc shamans is a cool one to do, because they're sort of dabbling in all the weird and wonderful things that orcs do when they do magic, so it tends to make them a little paler and a little bit more zany looking. So doing this sort of fun colors in there I think will be really cool. So I think that's a good one. And yeah, he's got some nice shapes on him as well, which is fun. Unfortunately they're all sort of hidden under this cloak, but there is some areas here we can play around with, so especially around the face, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, let's get started, eh? Okay, so to start with, we're going to do some underpainting. So we've got that night blue there, the royal purple, and the scarlet red. But we're going to start with the blue, and you're just going to be basically painting all of the flesh with the blue. And this is just essentially to knock back the black and give us a dark color for those shadows. So anywhere later on that we don't paint, or in those little crevices and so on, you'll at least see some kind of color showing through, which will be a nice contrast with the green flesh. So you just go through and paint all that, and once that's done, we move into some purple. Now this is where we're going to become selective, and we're going to pick some areas to paint, and you'll see me do it. You're trying to imagine the blood under the skin or something like that. So this is the subsurface scattering, so the colors you see under the skin, which is the veins and so on, and the blood and that sort of thing. So and the bones and everything else that's going on under there. And orcs have this stuff as well, so you sort of imagine that, and you just put the purple into those spots where you want to see it. So maybe around the knees, the hands, around the face, etc., and try to build that up. And once you're happy with that pattern of purple, then we move into some scarlet red. And so for this one, we want to be a little bit more selective, and again we're thinking about where the blood comes to the surface and looking for some hot spots basically. So you're just picking out areas around the face, maybe on the knuckles, that sort of thing, on the hands, a few areas, but not as large an area as with the purple. You want to make it a little bit more restricted in terms of how much you use. So now we've got a nice map of undercolors that we can now paint over the top of. So we have our palette set up here. Now there's quite a few colors. We've got quite a progression here. So, this sort of progression is more for your individual character models, that sort of thing. So don't be too daunted by this. We're only doing one model, so we're not trying to do 50 here or something like that. So we're going to start off with the dark sea blue and use that as our base. And so the way you go about it is you don't want to necessarily just base coat the whole thing. You'll see me go in and feather in around the muscle groups and so on, and leave some of that underpainting showing through. So you're sort of fading it in and allowing a little bit of that underpainting to come through in those shadows. So you see a little bit of color variation, but the dark sea blue is going to help us unify the whole color and get that going. And so once we've got that down, then we move into our first sort of base layer color, which is going to be the Pacific green mixed with the dark sea blue. And you're going about 50-50 here. And again, it's the same process. You're feathering it in across the muscle surface, leaving the shadows, etc. Now with skin, you don't want to do every single shadow exactly the same depth. You want to do a varied amount. So some of the shallower areas you'll paint straight over with this, and some you'll leave with the darker color, but I'll leave that up to you to decide aesthetically what you like. So once we've got that down, then we move into our midtones. Now here we're going to be going through some greens into blues and then into yellows in terms of these colors. So we've got that Pacific green, and now we're applying that straight. And with this one, you're now trying to really unify the whole, and you're trying to imagine most of this surface as the light coming from above. So you want to hit the top surfaces and leave the undersides with the darker color. And you're feathering it in using the brush to feather little streaks and marks. And you're imagining, a very leathery skin. Orcs are very rough and ready, and their skin would be like that, and we have a lot of sinuous strands in it and that sort of thing. Think like a rhino's hide or something like that, or an elephant's skin. It's got a lot of lines in it, that sort of thing. So you want to try to emulate that on the surface. And then once we've got that sorted out, then we move into our green sky. And this is another variation mid-tone. And now we're looking at really just picking out the top areas and so on to give us a transition of these two midtones. So we're seeing two different types of green working here. And again, leaving the undersides and the sort of areas that are in shadow, leaving them the dark color, and just focusing on the top surfaces to really brighten it up. Orcs really benefit from an extreme contrast whenever you're painting them. It really makes them stand out. So we're going to do that here. Once we've got that, now we're going into the highlights. So with the highlights, we've got the green sky and the ghost green here, and this is about a 50-50 mix here. And this is our first really true highlight color. So we're really focusing on the top surfaces around the face, the hands and feet and so on, the focal points on the model, and really trying to line in some nice brights, not trying to really hit the entire surface. You'll see me just gently bring in those lines to really make the edges pop. And then once that's all done, then we've got our ghost green, and again even finer highlights here, focusing on those top areas, trying to really just like unify a lot of these colors together and get that working. And then once that's sorted out, now we're sort of transitioning into a totally different set of colors. We've got this bile green here, which is more of a yellowy tone, and so we've got that ghost green and bile green mix, about a 50-50. And now we're really being careful to just do the very raised areas. This is almost a spot highlight, but not quite. You'll just see me just hitting very, very top surfaces on the hands, around the face, a little bit on the tops of the legs, that sort of thing. We're not trying to hit every single muscle surface, every single area. It's very selective. And so once we're happy with that, then we're going into the straight bile green, which is a very yellowy color. And again, almost a spot highlight, just hitting those top areas to give us a little bit of a sense of almost luminous greeny yellow coming through on the skin. As this is a shaman, the magical energies coming out of him, so we want to see a little bit of that. And then finally we've got two stages of sort of spot highlights here, which is the white mixed in. So we have a little bit of white mixed in and then a little bit more. And so the first one is a little bit bigger than a spot highlight, where we're just marking out those areas we want to see brightness, and just moving around the main focal points. And then finally a little spot highlight, just a little dab here and there, just around the face and the hands and knuckles and so on, just to draw your eye into those central areas where the interest is. And you should end up with a really, really fun, progression of color. And then finally, we'll move into just at the end, we'll come back in with the royal purple here, and I'm just doing a little bit of glazing. So you're adding about 3 parts water to 1 part purple, and you'll see me just go around and just unify some areas. So add a little bit of shadow into the eye sockets and around the hands and so on, and the legs. Just a few little spots just to add a little bit more fade of shading and color there. So we see a little bit more purple coming through, as it's a nice contrast with the green, and that should give us a really fun result and a really cool sort of pale green orc shaman skin. And there we go, some pale orc flesh on a Weirdnob Shaman. Let's take a look. So yeah, this is a really fun build up. It's not something you would probably do on, like army painting, but for an individual character like your wizard, your shaman, or something like that, it's a pretty cool scheme, I think. I really enjoy these colors, so we're definitely going to use them again. I'll be experimenting some more with some other subjects, and maybe we can use some of these colors again, because they are very cool. I think they probably work really well on Nurgle as well. This sort of blue greens into yellow greens, this sort of thing. They work really well. But yeah, on an orc, it's pretty good, especially on a shaman like this. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's a very interesting model to paint. So if you end up painting this, it's got a lot of like ins and outs underneath areas and on top and everything like that. So it's quite a challenge actually to paint, at least if you do it all together like this. But yeah, it's pretty cool at the end. It's very dynamic, you know, it's got a lot of things going on. And I like the little sort of, you know, plume of smoke up the top. It's pretty cool. It really suits the orc vibe. So yeah, all in all, it's been a fun one. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll leave a nice image for this one at the end as I normally do, but I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit the like button, subscribe button, it really helps me out. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one.